Welcome to the GSD with Jenny podcast, where we talk about how to overcome all the stuff that gets in the way of getting shit done. Imposter syndrome, fear, money, relationships, networking, building businesses. We're going to talk to experts, or as I say, mavens, that provide practical and tactical advice on how to GSD. I'm your host, Jenny Buchholz, founder and CEO of Haven Creative. Now, I started my business with $300 in a laptop and grew it to a team of Haven mavens serving clients around the world and generating over 7 figures in revenue. We were named one of the fastest growing companies in Charlotte and 2024 Crowns of Enterprise Woman-Owned Business of the Year, and I'm incredibly proud of the success we've had and to be among the 1% of woman-owned advertising agencies in the country. But I still need help too. So I started this podcast with the intent to dive deeper into the things that hold us back from achieving our goals. So thank you for joining me on this journey to GSD. Let's get started. Today's guest is an accomplished leader in the aftermarket automotive space. Lee Reiser, the Vice President of Marketing at RealTruck, the go-to destination for truck parts and accessories, is here to talk about her decades of experience in a male-populated industry with experience running high-performing teams and delivering results across e-commerce, brand, and product marketing. Lee brings a sharp strategic mindset and a roll-up-your-sleeves attitude. She definitely knows the secret sauce to getting shit done, and I'm excited to talk with her today to share her inspiration with you. Please welcome Lee.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Excited to be here.
I'm very excited to talk to you about all things aftermarket automotive and more specifically marketing, because you have built quite an impressive career. Tell me how your path led to where you are today.
Yeah, so it is a funny story. And I look back and I'm like, how did I get here 2 decades later? It's been 22 years now in the automotive aftermarket. But right out of college, I was actually with the staffing industry and not expecting to get into automotive or off road. But I heard about an opportunity through the staffing agency. And I said, I'd never considered that industry, but that just sounds like so much fun. How is that someone's day job? I'd love to do something like that. And so I actually said, I'm going to pursue this and see what it looks like. I got started in the suspension business, and about 6 months later, my boss said, well, I hired you as my replacement. So here's the keys. Good luck. And that's how it began.
Wow. So was that Skyjacker or a different brand?
It was.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it was my first automotive career started with Skyjacker. So,
And now you're at RealTruck. So for those that aren't familiar, tell me a little bit about RealTruck.
yeah, so RealTruck is a really exciting brand that, is sort of the parent company for all of our brands and categories now. So we do everything truck, Jeep, Bronco, car, SUV. And we're really heavily involved in all the categories from truck bed covers to electric side steps and even interior floor liners with our Husky brand. So we really cover anything and everything automotive, and we say we want to be on every vehicle everywhere.
So take me back, though, to the time where you just started out. And did you envision becoming a vice president of marketing one day? I mean, how did you take the steps to get there?
So it was definitely a goal of mine. I've actually said, when I started, I said I knew I didn't want to stay in the same position I wanted to climb, and I wanted to be in marketing. I said marketing has always been my thing, so I took the right steps, not only just from what I was doing from an experience standpoint, but I actually finished my BBA in marketing and then went back and pursued my MBA. And my MBA really opened doors, because you get that broader experience and education to take brands, to take teams to the next level. So with that MBA, I was really able to focus on, sort of the next steps in my career.
So it sounds like you've always been very driven to go after those goals. So that's definitely one thing we talk about quite a bit when it comes to getting shit done, is that grit and determination. Did you create some type of vision plan or steps? Like, what tools and advice could you give someone that's trying to climb the ladder as well?
Well, I think you do have to always keep that goal in mind. Don't get distracted by what else may be going on. If you have a goal, set your mind, hey, what do I have to do? What are the next 5 things I have to do to get there? And I do think making a list of sort of prioritizing what's next helps, because sometimes it's like, how do I get from here to here? That's a really big step. But throughout, whether it's business or life, you just make, hey, let's just focus on the next 5 things I have to do to get to the next step, the next phase. And I do think prioritizing that and knowing, okay, if I don't do those 5 things, I'm not going to be able to move to the next 5 things to get me to where I want to be. So staying really focused on that. I'm also the oldest of 7 kids, so I think it comes
Oh, I didn't know that.
naturally from that as well. You learn early on you've got to manage a lot of chaos, and you've got to work within like a big family like that. You learn how to be determined and focused, and make sure everybody is on board with what you're doing, and it's family, it's friends, it's everything, but it's a lot being the oldest child.
So many times our personal lives resemble a lot of the business structure. And you talk about 7 people and different personalities. It makes me think about now, I'm sure you're leading a team of multiple different personality types and people that maybe are more achiever type A or maybe are more passive. Tell me how you get your teams to align to get things done.
Yeah, and honestly, in your career, it's like the hard part is managing people, because everyone is different, everyone is unique, and we all have things that motivate us in different ways. So you have to learn your team, you absolutely do, but you have to make sure you have an aligned vision. And I think that's the most important thing, because it doesn't matter how your personality varies, your skill sets vary, what department or what area. If you have a shared vision and everybody's bought in, we're all excited to contribute to in the ways that we can provide the pieces that are going to get us to that end goal. So if we're all aligned on the vision, it just makes everybody's job easier. So I think that's key with teams, no matter what you're managing, from big projects, to overall company goals. Like, you've got to be aligned with that end game and the vision.
Absolutely. What would you say is one of the biggest challenges you have today in your role?
I think right now it's just balancing the external changes, to make sure, there's a lot going on in the world today. So it changes also day by day, week by week. So we're just managing, I think, more consumer uncertainty,
Yeah.
because of what's going on. And we're very dependent on, disposable income. And we want people to feel good about getting outdoors and modifying their vehicles. And so right now, it really is external forces that are sort of the biggest challenges for the team.
That makes sense. And I'm wondering too, with the change in marketing with AI and different tools, how do you see marketing evolving or the marketing tactics you're using evolving in the space?
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting, right? When new technology and new tools come into play, because as marketers, we get to be on the forefront, to test things out, to push the limit. But we also have to be careful, that we're not taking that human element out of it, because
I'm so
in
glad you said that.
marketing, consumer behavior is so important. And
Mhm.
so we're all driven by different things, and we can't forget that human element in it. And I think marketing is so important, because I've said for so long, we're all driven by the relationships we have. And so it's important to still, as a brand, have that relationship with your consumer. And I just think it's hard to replicate that sort of human element.
I couldn't agree more. I get so excited because I completely agree that the human centric approach has to still be alive and well when it comes to our marketing and brand building. I know that you all attend a lot of events, you specifically, because you do love off roading yourself, right?
Yes, yeah. So I think of myself definitely as an enthusiast. I live and breathe it. Everyone's like, "This is your work," and I'm like, "Yeah, this is my day job," but I also do it, for recreation. It's a hobby of mine. I have a lot of fun with it, and I've been given opportunities, obviously through work, to experience even better and more amazing things. Like, a few years ago, the company said, "Hey, do you want to race the Rebel Rally, be a part of this team that takes us off road?" And I'm like, yes, sign me up. And so I drove over 1,600 miles off road in our equipped vehicle, so it was all of our products. And I was so proud to say throughout the entire event, we had zero, vehicle or mechanical failures. So our products really carried us through that. And it was just incredible to go off road with all women and just tackle the most unreal terrain. And we all at the end of the day got to say, we did this,
Yeah, that's cool.
together and also separately, just as your team. You felt so empowered out there, just you, a navigator, and your vehicle, your third teammate. We called our vehicle our third teammate. So,
And was that the first time you had gone that far in an off-road event?
yes, that was definitely, and it was the first time we really took it from just recreation and trail riding
Yeah.
to now it is competitive. There are checkpoints, there are things you have to do. You have to make it to the next level. I had participated in the previous event was called Ultimate Adventure. So a pretty big publication put that on. There was always a series of videos around Ultimate Adventure. That's a little different, and it's not truly a competition, but you, a teammate, and the vehicle do have to make it through whatever terrain they throw at you. And you don't know, because it is always a secret. The leader knows, but you wake up that day and you go, hey, where are we going? Well, we're going to go off road at the most amazing, off road park. And we're going to see if we can break or we can make it.
I mean, okay.
There was a lot of breakage.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Okay, I need to understand what quality, what trait is that where you're like, I'm probably scared to death, but I'm going to do it anyway, and maybe climb over certain rocks and hills and get stuck and not really sure how to get my way out. Like, what is that trait?
Yeah, I love that feeling of, going into sort of this unknown situation, and you have to think on your feet. You have to react, because every obstacle brings a different challenge. So it's, it may be on this side, you're going to be really off camber. So the risk is you could tip over, or it's really, really, really steep and you could roll over.
Backwards, yeah.
So each obstacle has something unique, and you've got to use, obviously the off-road skills you have, but also you've got to keep in mind, I don't want the vehicle to break. So you've got to, like, what's the path of least resistance to sort of get up it successfully. And that's the fun of it, because everything is new and changing and different. And just the thrill of once you achieve that, you're like, I did that. It's rare to get that any other place, except for off-road extreme sports. You get that adrenaline rush each time you compete or you conquer some sort of new obstacle.
I mean, that is the epitome of getting shit done right there. Going out there and just going for it. Okay, but how did you learn to off-road? Was it because of the different events you did on your own and just kind of learning that skill set over time? And
well, I actually got the first opportunity at work. It was an event, and we were out there just having a lot of fun. And someone said, "Hey, you always are here supporting us and doing all of these things, but you need to get behind the wheel. You need to see what this feels like and see how much fun it is." So I did, and I was hooked. I was like, "Okay, yep, I'm bought in, totally get it." So I've certainly modified my own vehicles. Now I'm driving a Ford Bronco. It's a 4-door, 2-inch lift, 35s, all of our products. And, I get to have fun and take it out. The company had done a challenge a few years ago, said, "Hey, it's National Get Outdoors Day. We want you guys to go do something fun." And I said, "Oh, challenge accepted." So took my daughter out in the Bronco, and actually, was a little bit more challenging than I expected. We got pretty spectacularly stuck, and I was by myself with just her, which I don't recommend that if you're off road. Always do it in pairs. But she's like, "Mom, I don't think we're going to get out of this," and I was like, "Challenge accepted." And so, I did, and I mean, there was mud flying everywhere because, again, I wasn't going to let her down. We were going to get out, and she was like, "Okay." That was pretty badass.
I was going to say, how badass to see your mom do it. And as an aside, I get the thrill too. I got to do a Bronco video for Fab Fours, and I was doing donuts in it. And I thought I probably could have flipped that if I was going a little too fast, but it was so fun. It's like a scary fun.
Yeah. Well, it's the edge, right? You always want to push it to the edge. Like,
Yes, yes.
I don't love the off camber stuff where there's like a cliff on that side, because then that's sheer there's more carnage than I want, right?
Yes.
But like the extra thrill of, okay, I have the right equipment, I do know my safety, is usually in a good place.
Yep. Yep.
But I still could roll over. I still could. I mean,
I mean, anything can
off road
happen.
can
And
be
again, it's very
dangerous.
similar to leading a team and running, going on your career path, and you have your steps, like you said, your tools, you have your MBA, you know what you want to do in marketing, but there's an unknown, you're pushing yourself. It's scary.
Absolutely.
So similar traits, I guess, to go
No, I
off-roading or
agree. I agree. I actually do think I did an article somewhere around that. It's like translating sort of those skills into, sort of in and out of, business.
I, the thing is, it is a special set of skills because a lot of people talk and they have ideas all day long, but they don't actually get things done. And that's really why I started the podcast too, is to help tell these stories to inspire others to overcome the obstacles that are in their way. I mean, if you can learn how to go off-roading in what many call male populated, not dominated, right? Industry. Tell me a little bit about that too. How was it breaking in as a woman in the industry?
Oh yeah, gosh, because I started 22 years ago. So it was a very different space 22 years ago. And as a fairly young female in the space, it was intimidating. You would walk into a room many, many times and be the only one. And you were looked at differently. I think a lot of people thought, do you want to be here? What is the story? But it was very apparent, I think, because of my enthusiasm and my passion. I wanted to be there. And I do think they fed off of that. They were excited to see that I wasn't just a part of it. I was wanting to be immersed in the industry and in what everyone was doing and understand it in a way. And so then I was welcomed in with a lot of opportunities and guys wanting to say, I want to see you do that next. Like, I want to see you go out there and experience what we do and understand it. So then there were some amazing advocates, for me in my career, with guys just saying, I want to see you, succeed in this. And so there were some great encouragers and mentors along the way. But in the beginning, it's hard, and you've got to just put that fear aside and say, I'm confident in what I'm doing, and I know why I'm here, and I'm here for the right reasons. And I do think that shines through. So I always say, don't let that fear, guide your decisions. Like, do it anyway. I've said yes to more opportunities than no. And I think that's what, when you do that, you continue to get more. You can
Completely.
continue to get those exciting opportunities that will bring you to either the next phase in off-road or in your career, and business. So
Definitely. I mean, what
it's
I'm hearing,
exciting.
yeah, what you're saying is coming in with that thirst for learning and being an enthusiast about the brand. I've had the similar experience. I started my career at Hot Rod and Motor Trend TV. So definitely
Great.
male populated, dominated, however you want to say it. And the only woman in the room, 22. Oh, you're cute. You must be here because you're cute, but you don't really understand cars and this just perception. But similar to you, I was just hungry to learn and I was
Yeah.
curious and excited. And then the energy, is that force multiplier. It's contagious. And then you find your community. And you're right. I had many great champions that are guys along the way. It's a fun
Yeah.
industry to work in for sure.
It really is. And like I said, it didn't take me long to say, this is it. I want to build my career in this industry, because of the passion I see, because of the enthusiasm. And I still think, there's very innovative products and solutions and companies out there. And it doesn't always exist in some mature, industries. You don't see the fun innovation that exists still in automotive.
That's true too. I mean, I feel like there's so many parts in aftermarket automotive that are being invented every day, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, finding new ways to do it's like, yeah, it's just a widget. Well, there's a better way to do that, because if you're an enthusiast and if you're somebody that uses it, there's not just one way to skin this cat. Like, there's other opportunities to certainly just get better at it, to refine it, to make it, either more functional or look really good and be super functional, and durable, so we
Yes.
focus. Yeah.
That's a good point too, because there's a lot of stuff out there that just looks cool and has no exact function at all, at all.
Ex- exactly. And it's got to be a balance. I think, not everybody's going to take it and put it through the paces, but we want it to be engineered in such a way you could, or you have the confidence that the product is going to support you. Because we have recovery elements in our products. We have winches, we have different things that we definitely want to make sure if you need it and you're called upon to use it, that it's going to perform in the way that you intended to. So
That's all the stuff I would have, all the safety gear first.
yes, yeah. And it is critical off road to, again, to have the tools that you feel confident that are going to take you to the end. So
And in life, similar thing.
it is.
Tell me what advice you could give maybe a young marketer out there that's looking to pursue a career that's in the similar pathway as you.
So I think the best advice I can give is just get in and get immersed. Know the consumer, know your product. Because if you know both of those things, there's a lot of other things that kind of come naturally. You understand the consumer, you understand the product, you're going to know how to message it properly. You're going to know what channels that you should be in. You're going to know what events to attend. And you're going to know the best way to keep your brand authentic for those consumers that are looking for it. Again, today we talked about the human element, but in marketing, it's like we have the 4 Ps, but I've been told that I often focus on the fifth P. There isn't a fifth P. It's people though. So relationships and again, if you kind of focus on that piece, a lot of stuff also works itself out. So if you focus on the people, is it the consumer that you're trying to reach or the people bringing the product to market? When you focus on that key thing, a lot of the other things in the price and the product like work itself out. So it's just a really good way to make sure if you're going to get into an industry, you are so knowledgeable about both the consumer and the product that you're marketing. And then again, you'll have the means to market it and do the correct campaigns and reach them through the correct channels.
Yeah, I'm glad that you said that because oftentimes I've heard key executives say like people and culture is hand-holdy and fluffy and it's not as meaningful. But a lot of the people I've talked to on this podcast talk about the power of vision and purpose and their people and building a culture. Do you feel like that's something that you have at RealTruck too?
Oh yeah, I do think culture is important. And again, it's the vision. If you're not bought in, that culture kind of struggles. So the vision has to be there, and then the people and the talent that are enthusiastic and that are ready to again go after that vision. If you're misaligned with the people and their skills and what that vision is, there's going to be a disconnect. So I think right now we've got a lot of people that are just really bought into. We have so much opportunity with RealTruck, with our brands, with what we're doing in the space. We're global now. We're not just tackling all of North America. We have locations in Guadalajara, Mexico, in Denmark, in Australia, in Thailand. So we've been growing at a tremendous rate to just get into different markets. And it certainly brings new challenges, but also new opportunities. So we've really been looking at culture just across all different continents as well, because that matters. We want the culture to feel very, very broad across all of those continents as well. And it's been great. I have a new global marketing manager that sits in Denmark that just went to visit our Thailand and our Australia facilities. Like, what an experience,
I mean,
in
yeah,
the
you think
first month of work.
starting out in Louisiana or this small brand now to this global brand and you're flying around to Denmark. Like, what? It's amazing.
Yeah. It's exciting. No, it's exciting. And that is the stuff when you get out of college and you're hungry and you want to do, it's like you can have that vision, but
Yeah.
sometimes you get there and you're like, this is better than I had, even anticipated. So let those happy surprises come. Be delighted, and be thankful once you get there. You're like, okay, this is where I wanted to be, but hey, it's maybe even better, than I was expecting. So
I
It's
love that
exciting.
too, because I think sometimes we have self-limiting beliefs, like I can only grow this far, or maybe one day I'll be the manager at X, and we're not dreaming big enough. And opening ourselves up to these opportunities, like you mentioned earlier, you said yes more than you said no, and being okay to be curious, to these traits that you had, that grit, determination, being curious. These are all great things and great advice you've given to people that are looking to reach those goals in their industry. So I appreciate you sharing that. I want to.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to.
What's one thing you've learned the hard way, but you're better for it?
Well, I've always been told I have a strong bias for action. I actually think somebody told me your bias for action is second to none. And that's a good thing in so many ways. Like I really do hold that one near and dear because that is how I get stuff done. It is truly how I get it all done in a day, by having that strong bias for action. But I would say what I learned the hard way is that sometimes you move so fast that everyone isn't either bought in or brought along. And that's not the best way, because I would much rather, take the time to get everybody aligned and bought in, to move forward, because then I'm also not bearing the sort of biggest part of the lift. We're doing it together. We're doing it as a team. So I do think, with those strong type A personalities, yes, bias for action, 100% needed. But you also have to sometimes check yourself with that and say, but I need to be a part of bringing everyone along so we all feel like we're accomplishing this together. So I definitely think I learned that one the hard way.
I can completely empathize with that. I've been told I'm a strong personality and I like to go, go, go. And maybe my team
Yes.
has told me I have half-baked ideas, but I'm like, idea, let's go.
Yeah, and you don't want it to fall apart in the execution. So
Yeah.
that's where, it's like, okay, yes, I want to get this done, but I also want to get it done in the most efficient, effective way and everyone to feel a part of it. So I do think that's just critical for your team.
Well, I really appreciate, again, all the advice you share with us today. So many gold nuggets in this conversation. Thank you again for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This has been wonderful, and certainly appreciate you focusing on something like this because, again, strong bias for action and getting stuff done. It's what it's all about in both business and life. So I really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to GSD with Jenny. If you found this episode helpful, share it with a friend. For more ways to GSD, you can also find me on LinkedIn at Jenny Buchholz, where you can sign up for my Maven Mindset newsletter, or follow me on Instagram at Maven Jenny. Until next time, go GSD, Mavens!